am feeling activation as I am about to record my first YouTube video. I feel like pressure in my chest. I feel a little bit lightheaded. I feel that my heart is racing, not like crazy, but it's kind of like very somatic. It's like I'm in danger. But actually, nothing is going on. Like, I'm just sitting down in a living room and I'm safe. There's no threats. There's nobody chasing me. There's no threat to my physical safety. There's also not threat to be ostracized, even if people don't like this, even if nobody watches it. I still have friends. I still have family. I'll survive. I'll be okay. My name is Kwao and I'm a filmmaker, originally from Mexico City, live in Canada, and right now temporarily in Berlin, conducting this research on creative block, creative freeze, trying to understand what stop artists from creating, trying to develop little hacks, poetic rituals, everything based on psychology and somatic work. And why Berlin? Because Berlin is a very interesting city for experimentation. People are very open. There's a lot of cultural offerings. It's very multicultural. And it seems like everybody has a workshop. Even I have a workshop, even though I don't live here. And basically, I came here because I'm developing this platform called the Poetic Toolbox, which is a platform that offers creators and artists of any discipline psychological tools for creating better and more authentic art. So who am I? Basically, I was creatively blocked for more than 10 years. I wanted to make a film for the longest time and I couldn't bring myself to do it until in 2023, I got a life-threatening heart surgery. And that really put things into perspective and make me realize that life is short. And basically from that stance, I decided to set out to make my film. And, it was a very beautiful process because I was able to learn a lot, but also confront all of my creative monsters, as I call them, which are basically just the thoughts that the collection of pattern thoughts, behaviors that are preventing you from creating. So because the objective was to make a film, I had to confront every single one of them, and I had a lot of them. And even after the film was ready, like just going through the gruesome process of doing a crowdfunding campaign to fund post-production, and now it's finished finally, and I am currently sending it out to festivals and just learning how to promote a film, getting myself invited to podcasts and inviting myself to podcasts and stuff. So the work is ongoing. I'm still sort of like dealing with my creative monsters. This is by no means me saying that I am cured of creative block and that I'm never going to be activated or triggered. Quite the contrary, because I know that this is a lifelong process. I want to share vulnerably and openly with whoever's watching what that could look like, and most importantly, share tools for them to, try it out. We all have different journeys. We all have different fair advantages, disadvantages. So what worked for me might not work for you, but my intention is just to have a place where I can share these tools. A lot of them are psychological tools, but a lot of them are also kind of like biohacking yourself, because these creative monsters, they are kind of like, they're originally protective mechanisms that somehow got weirdly wired in a way that prevents you to make art, right? So for example, a lot of them have to do with protecting your standing and your belonging to a group. So if you think that making something that's too vulnerable or it's too flawed or it somehow shows the real you, and that might be rejected by your tribe, by your group, then you might as well not even try, because then that might get you ostracized. And that meant that you could be unsafe, and that means that you could die. So, it's just like, it's a long winded equation, but in the minds of many people, making art equals death, through that logic. So, and there's many other ways, many little patterns that patterns of thought that like make sense for the body in a survival way, but they're not really helping you create, and they're not even relevant anymore. They're protecting you, but they're not even necessary anymore, right? They might have been at some point if you grew up in an environment where self-expression was not encouraged, or you felt like you somehow needed to do things perfectly and experimentation was not allowed or encouraged. So don't get me wrong, those things help you at some point, but the thing now is like they're probably not helping you right now. Luckily, I've done some repetitions that allow me to feel exposed and be seen, which is something that would have been impossible before. Like, even recording this YouTube video would have been impossible like a few years ago. So it really gave me hope to know that, just like going to the gym, like if you do the reps, the visibility reps, as much as you can handle, like little by little, you can start to reprogram your relationship with visibility, with vulnerability, with what you believe is possible for you. So that gave me a lot of hope, and I wanted to share what I learned along the way with whoever's watching, and not just share my own story, but also gather other people's stories and what works for them, and share them in this channel too. So this channel is all going to be about that. I'll be sharing the creative monsters that I've found so far, which are not like a scientific phenomenon. This is just like a little label that I've created to playfully name them, and also like befriend them, because the monsters are not there to mess up your life or sabotage you. They originally were created by your mind to protect you, right? Like if you were afraid of vulnerability, if you were afraid of rejection, of being ostracized and taken and being like rejected by your tribe or your group, that meant unsafety, and that meant death, right? So that's exactly what this channel is about. So far I've met like amazing people here in Berlin, and I am creating a workshop called Meet Your Creative Monsters, where we try out like these wacky experiments based on ritual, based on theatricality, and it's all about like creating awareness of these monsters, give them a name, and then change the relationship that we have with them to eventually visualize and create different narratives for ourselves as artists and creatives. So it's all very experimental, like I said. I'm learning a lot from the artists who are showing up, and also the artists that I'm interviewing. Every week I'm interviewing 2 or 3 artists and asking them about their process, about what they're struggling with, their blogs, their tips, because everybody has like unique little ways they found out works for them. So rather than me just sharing my own, I also want people to be able to just share whatever it's on their mind. I want people to share their tips, and because it might resonate with you. Yeah, and just like to give you a taste of the creative monsters, I've partnered up with this amazing illustrator and photographer. Her name is Miki Kawaguchi, who has given the monsters a body. And basically we come up with a few of them, but I'm going to talk about just 3 that are very basic that most people can identify with. The first one is called the hibernator. This represents the freeze response. People think that when you feel threatened, you do either flight or fight, but there's also freeze. And that was the one that I was like mostly affected by. And freeze is when you feel so overwhelmed by the potential threat that you just don't move. Literally, you can't force yourself to go ahead with what you wanted to do. And so, you could go into like why that is, and go to a psychoanalysis or therapy for 2 or 3 years to try to figure out what your traumas are. But I think that it's not necessary. I mean, you're welcome to do that, but I think it's not necessary to do that in order to start creating. You can just hack your biology in certain ways, right? Like if you're frozen, which is a very specific bodily state, then you can shake, for like 5-10 minutes. You can do, deep breathing. You can splash water on your face. There's a couple of things that you can do that will get you out of this state and start creating. And then there's also all other kinds of little rituals or symbolic acts. And that's why it's called the Poetic Toolbox, because these are poetic tools. For example, for this other monster called the heavy head, right? We're still workshopping the names. But the heavy head, represents overthinking. And overthinking as a protective mechanism where you're just basically trying to think like, oh, like, let me just make this better, and I need to figure out what this project is going to be about, and how am I going to be able to sell it, and who's going to see it. And then you start like thinking, and you never really get to creating. And you think you feel like you're being productive because you're researching and you're taking steps, but you're not really creating. So it's just kind of like a way of stalling yourself. So for this one, what you can do is like you can make the worst possible version of your project, right? Just like get it out of the way, understand that you don't have to publish it. You are going to survive even if you make something that's not good. So basically, overthinking. Yeah, just you could say you can set a timer and make the worst version of your project, and that sort of like removes this need of like making it perfect. And then you got like the bully, right? A lot of the times these are voices that we internalize from our environment, and they can be quite mean. And the thing is, this is your internal voice. So sometimes we're bullying ourselves, right? The inner critic. You're saying like, this sucks. Nobody's gonna want to see this. Nobody's gonna like this. You're not good enough. You're comparing yourself to others. The inner critic can be quite brutal. So a little trick for this one is to make a mistake on purpose, right? Like just sort of like do the opposite of what the critic wants you to do, to liberate yourself from the pressure of performing, of being perfect. I think that intentionally, making a line where you're not supposed to, that can, in a weird way, liberate you. So again, just a little trick. It's just a symbolic gesture. So yeah, that's pretty much what the Poetic Toolbox is about. It's an ongoing experiment, and I invite you to share any tip or struggle that you have. And I'm looking forward to turning this into a community. And yeah, just sort of like double down on the idea. I guess the philosophy behind the Poetic Toolbox is that we can create better and more when you're regulated, when your nervous system is calm, and you approach art from a place of exploration and curiosity as opposed to survival mode. Just, chasing status, chasing approval, chasing validation. That could be a powerful motivator, but the quality of the art and the intention is still going to affect the art that you make. Whereas if you come from a regulated state, then it's going to be more truthful, it's going to be more enjoyable, it's going to be more authentic to your true self. So I think that it's time to really prioritize curiosity and calm and joy in your creative process, even when it's about like digesting or processing something, because I understand that art can also be an outlet for when you're feeling down and you want to express something that's bothering you. but then it's a healthy expression, right? Like you're metabolizing something through art, and it becomes something authentic and real. But it's not performative. It's not, you're not making it because you want to get something out of it, because you want to sell it, because you want to people to think that you're so cool or whatever. And so yeah, this is basically my intention, to stay away from the hustle artist and this idea that you have to suffer to make art and it's so difficult. And for sure there are challenges, and we're going to talk about uh, how to promote yourself, how to sell your art. These are things that I'm learning myself, and I want it to be a full rounded um, platform where all kinds of advice are given and shared and exchanged. But I guess my main priority is to have a space where I get you to make more art, regardless of what you do with it. I think self-expression in and of itself is important, and it's worth it for its own sake. Not to say that you cannot sell your art and everything. Of course, you can do it and you should do it, and there are ways to do it, but let's not confuse the two. So welcome to this experiment of the Poetic Toolbox. I'm going to be sharing here a lot more resources and tools for artists and creatives. And I do have a PDF. It's a short, free PDF about one of the creative monsters I struggle with the most, the hibernator. It explains where this monster tends to come from, the kinds of thoughts it whispers to artists, and how it affects our creative practice. I also share two tools I use to move through it, one grounded in nervous system science and another more poetic symbolic exercise. So if you like to read it, you can download the PDF through the link in the description. We have an Instagram, a Facebook, and a YouTube, and I'm just looking forward to chatting and exchanging ideas with you through those channels. Welcome to the Poetic Toolbox. The Poetic Toolbox is open.